Hey guys, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we're going to see what is Weblogic. Weblogic is a Java-based application server that provides platform for developing, deploying, and managing distributed application. Now, I know that you can read it yourself. That's not something which I'm going to do right now in this video. Do remember that there are two kinds of applications available, or the server which is serving the application is available. So one is the static server or static applications, another one is dynamic server or dynamic applications. Now, as you can see over here, static applications are basically your IBM HTTP server, Oracle HTTP server, Apache HTTP server, and Nginx. So if you see that Nginx and Apache HTTP server are the far more fabulous and more powerful static application serving servers. So these are some HTML files, JPEG files. So these are some of those, example of that content. And that's been shared across to the internet, and then the receiver or the end user will be receiving the content. Most of the websites you see around the world is basically starts with a static application because it's fast and doesn't require any background processing. But when you compare that with a dynamic application server like Weblogic itself, or WebSphere application server, or JBoss, or Tomcat, which is quite limited to the application functionality. So they are dynamic application servers. Now the content here will be coming from processed content. We call it processed content, which means that it needs to go to the memory, it needs to process the data on the CPU, and then the processed data go to memory, and the processed data comes out as an output to your end user. So as this requires a processing, and the processing may require a backend also processing. So this does mean that there's a lot of processing going on for getting an output, which we will talk in this slide. So if you see in this slide, you can see that Weblogic application does not just provide the content which is in the static way. For example, if it's a static content, you just have to provide the file. So it's like I ask you a file and you give that file to me. There is no processing of that file. So you take that file from your cabinet and you directly hand over to me. That's basically a static content. But a dynamic content is basically I tell you to give me a file, but you don't have that file prepared. So which means that you need to go connect with your friends, try to understand what I'm talking about or what I'm asking you about, and develop that file using your memory on your brain. And then you provide me inputs into the file, and then you give me that file. So basically, as you can see here, app 1 and app 2, which is designed by Java, is being processed by the JVM, which is your Weblogic, using the Java which is installed on your system, and it takes that to your CPU to process data, and the processed data goes to your temporary folder as well as your RAM, and from your RAM it gets delivered to the end user. So this amount of task which we are supposed to do when you're working with Weblogic or WebSphere or JBoss, because a dynamic content is not just developed by just passing the file, but the processing of the file, which needs to communicate with the database, which needs to communicate to the messaging services, which needs to connect with another application server. So there are a lot of processing which is required before it sends out the data, right? So that's basically dynamic content. Now here, MobileXterm is over here to tell you about that. MobileXterm is going to be needed for you for accessing your CentOS virtual machine to access your Weblogic service stuff, because it's a console. So that's basically enables you to interact with the command line stuff. And it also has a beautiful feature, which is X Windows as well. And it can also host multiple terminals or multiple systems. If you have, it can also view it in different ways. We will see that while we go forward with this training. So these are some of the stuff which you're going to download as well. So you can consider this video for downloads as well, because you're going to need a VMware for you to host a CentOS on your operating system. So I'm running Windows Server, Windows 11, I guess, on my laptop. So if I want to run a CentOS on top of my Windows, I need to have VMware, a virtual machine, to do that. And then I'm going to have a Weblogic installed. So I need to download Weblogic. I need to download Mobile XM, which is a free version available. All these, I'm going to give you everything free version here. There's nothing needs to be paid, because I am really against payments and, paying stuff. Java, again, free. We're going to download the JDK version of Java 11, which you're going to use with WebLogic 14c. And pretty much you have CPU and RAM already in your laptop, so which you're going to use it as well. So that's pretty much what we're going to download on the next video. That's pretty much what we are going to use as a dynamic application server, because it's going to use all these components over here to give you or to produce the output which is requested or required by your end user. Thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.